welcome to the GGB Supplier Showcase. I am joined today by Paul Gordon, Senior Vice President of Sales for Rymax, the industry leader in loyalty marketing and rewards. Paul, how are you doing today?
Good, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jess?
Great, thank you. Thanks for joining us. So rewards and loyalty programs are obviously an extremely important part of the casino industry. It's kind of how, a lot of the bread gets buttered. So one of the leading sectors of the industry is sports betting, and a lot of companies are kind of breaking into gaming via sports betting. So what would you say is the importance for those new companies coming into the industry, the importance of offering comprehensive loyalty and rewards programs?
Well, I think a couple of things. First of all, what sports betting has done for the industry is it's really brought in a younger demographic, which is great. Years past, I do interviews with you guys, talk about how's Gen Z going to get in, millennials, et cetera. And the reality is that sports betting has been a great draw for that. So it's been really phenomenal. Sports betting right now is taking a page out of what casinos have done for years and years, which essentially is free play, right? They're enticing you in by some form of guaranteeing a bet or just a model of free play. And that's good to initiate trial, but it doesn't actually build a community and repeat purchases, because once the initial offer is done, generally there's not a second offer. But also, what's interesting about sports betting is that the actual odds on an event are really consistent across the board. Mm-hmm. So the transient nature of the bettor is high because they're going to go wherever they feel most comfortable or wherever that initial offer is. And so what we've been pushing is that now that there's sort of a maturity of online sports betting, the companies need to start to think a little bit more about how do you build a loyalty base and how do you do it as a player loyalty program. Now, the casinos have done it better than anybody. The player loyalty program has been in place, probably 20, 25 years. And it really is the bedrock of really what keeps players coming in and playing more often, frequently, all that. So I think that that's where the opportunity lies now, is that I believe that most of the companies have done an excellent job in terms of advertising, probably more so than their CFO wants to see because of the balance sheet. There's a tremendous amount of resources put into that. Now the next phase really is to think about how do you really connect that player to that site, and how do you build a loyalty program? And that's really what we want to talk about at G2E.
Gotcha. And kind of going right into that, what are some things that you're looking for heading into the show, and kind of what you're planning on talking about at the show?
Well, the good news for the industry is that the rebound from COVID and the shutdown in 2020 has really been phenomenal. So you're really seeing just tremendous growth. You're seeing a lot of activity, which is good. With that, also, there's a pent-up demand for the appreciation of the player to say, hey, I've come back, or I've stuck with you. And so we've seen really a real uptick in sort of the rewards platforms that are there. More people are embracing the online platform, not necessarily to redeem online, but to be able to view it, see it all the time, interact with it. This way it's right there in front of them. A couple of reasons. One is because everybody now is on their phone, everybody's on a tablet. That platform certainly is viable. But the other thing is that the communication tool is important to constantly have something in front of them, and then also to build the loyalty program. Now, the redemption for what we build is not done on the phone or on the tablet. It's still done in the casino. So you're still getting the traffic cycle that goes in there. But what you're doing is you're building a little bit more of a loyalty base by showing them what they can get as they play up, as they play more, et cetera. So the prospect for the industry, I think, is phenomenal. I mean, you're seeing a lot of new casinos opening up. You're seeing, certainly in the case of the Hard Rock, really venturing into the Strip. You see San Manuel, which is now Yamama, which is now doing the Palms. And even in the local markets, you're seeing a lot of growth there. So we're real bullish on it. We think it's going to be great. And I think that, the future for the industry is really very, very bright.
And, you mentioned the new markets. It's really kind of been the story of the industry so far. It feels like every week I'm doing a new story about, new states, new cities, new projects. When you get into new markets, or you have clients who have new markets, kind of how does that shape your end in terms of the forming programs that best fit those demographics?
So excellent question, because loyalty programs aren't a cookie cutter type of approach. It really is a consultative approach. Mm-hmm. And you really do have to understand the market. And when it's a local market, you have to understand what makes up that local market. What are their interests? What is the average age? Sort of what is it about that area that's going to resonate with the player? So the opportunity there is really rich for us to really get involved in talking about what we think is really going to help build that player loyalty program within those territories. What's also interesting is that there's a much different dynamic where there's more frequency in terms of giveaways, in terms of play-ups or events in local markets than there are really in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a destination, casino territory really, where the local markets are a local market. So there's a lot more you can do in terms of having fun with those properties. Now, in some of the markets, there are some places where they're the new kids on the block, which is much different than being the new kid in the block with a lot of competition, or just sort of being the only game in town. And you also have to figure out what works best in the programs from that standpoint as well. So we pride ourselves in first of all, having a very eclectic mix of clients in the casino industry, as well as across the board. We're also in all different things, financial companies, pharmaceuticals, et cetera. So I think we can give a good sense of what people want and what rewards will work best to really move the needle.
And now, in terms of one thing that's also very, cyclical in your business is the actual time of year, especially now that we're kind of right on the precipice heading into holiday season. I know some people like to jump the gun. I'm sure some people around there already have their Christmas trees and Christmas lights up and whatnot. But for Rymax specifically, kind of what are some of the holiday trends this year, and kind of what are you guys focusing on throughout the rest of this year?
So what's interesting is we're actually doing our first shopping spree in October. Where we set up a ballroom and the players come in and we've got all different products in there they can use their comp dollars to redeem. So yeah, it starts earlier and earlier. In terms of what's happened is that, so in 2020, we saw that people went from sort of things that they desired to things that they needed. And so we saw a real uptick in anything that had to do with exercise, home improvement, self-improvement, and luxury and travel. Obviously took a back seat because people weren't traveling and they weren't really leaving their house. We've now seen that trend change. And so we're seeing a lot more of the travel piece coming back in. We just got finished with Labor Day. The Labor Day travel numbers from TSA were actually higher than pre-pandemic numbers. So we know that's a good thing. So you're seeing things like luggage now suddenly is desirable again, anything that's really travel related. But for us, it's always about bringing whatever the latest product is to the forefront. Apple just announced their new products. We'll have those in our shopping sprees. We'll have those in the programs. You're going to see some really great new fashion items that are going to come out there. We'll have those in there. Believe it or not, the health and beauty category has become very, very strong. And so people weren't necessarily leaving their house and didn't have to look quite as good. I grew my beard just like everybody else in the first couple of months. And of course, it was almost all gray, so I had to shave it off immediately. But, that healthcare, home care, is really very big with fragrance and any kind of things that have to do with beauty. So we're seeing sort of a shift back to pre-pandemic categories. And the good news for us is that we really cover all the different categories. We really run the gamut of what people want. So we're in a good position to be able to supply that. I will tell you that still things in the electronic area are still going to have supply chain issues because of chip issues. You're also going to see, some categories that still are difficult. Believe it or not, golf clubs have been very difficult because they couldn't get the rubber grips for the shafts and different component parts. So that's still going to take place, but we keep an eye on it and we try to offer the products that we really feel very comfortable that we can deliver. And so that's what we'll have in the fourth quarter. Gotcha.
And you've been in this industry a long time. You've seen a lot of different changes and trends and whatnot. And obviously these past 2 years have been pretty unprecedented, but as we kind of, as you just alluded to, we're kind of, coming into a new horizon, so to speak, in terms of, getting back to normal a little bit. What are some of the other things that have been most surprising to you in terms of what your clients have been asking for, what the customers have been asking for? What's kind of caught you off guard a little bit, if anything?
Well, the biggest thing, and I tell everybody, which I think was remarkable, that during the height of the pandemic in the fourth quarter of 2020, when the news media was saying, don't go to Thanksgiving with your grandmother, don't visit your friends, don't do all these things, we actually were still out there. We did do shopping sprees. And what amazed me was that the players were there. That desire to play is so strong that people continue to come in there. And that was really very reassuring, which was great. I think that, again, going back to the sports betting, what's difference between 2022 versus 2020 is that there's a newer, younger audience now that's prone to go into the casinos. And that was a major concern because even though the discretionary income of the baby boomers is far greater than anybody else, the reality is the shrinking base as people are getting older. And, obviously that's it. So there's a major concern there. And I think that through the sports betting, through the online betting, it's become really a younger audience that's going in. I think that the industry has to do a better job of talking about the benefits of what gaming, casinos in states, as well as online, mean to the community. I know that there are a lot of things in the ballot in California. I talked to some people in California. There's a tremendous amount of advertising pushing back on it. The money goes to good things, schools, to roads. It employs a tremendous amount of people. Those people then are able to send their kids to college. The casino industry is a phenomenal industry that I think needs to do a better job explaining sort of what we're all about and why it's good for the community. And I think if we do that, we're going to see greater expansion. I'm not worried about the dilution of too many casinos in certain areas. I think there's room for everybody. And so I think that's the most interesting thing that I've seen over the last 2 years.
So you guys are present in a lot of different industries, but what would you say your guys' specific, some of your goals are when approaching casino clients specifically? What are some of the strategies that you employ specifically for the casino industry?
So on the casino side, there are two things. One is that player loyalty is just built into the DNA of all the casinos. And so that's really where the majority of our business is. I really do believe, though, that the casinos have to look more in terms of what type of loyalty programs, reward programs, education programs, training programs for the employees, because we know that it's been difficult to hire people. We talked about the Great Resignation. Now we talk about, quiet quitting, all those terms that are being used in terms of what the workforce is. To get good people, to keep good people, you need to be able to show them that you appreciate them. You need to have a robust program for that. And what I mean by that is that, it's a points-based program. And it's not just enough to give them things that the casino has. Well, you've done a great job. Your employee of the month, here's dinner in the restaurant or whatever, a gift certificate to the gift shop. You have to give them things that also help them out in their lives too, because they're all in the same boat. We're all in the same thing where inflation is high and gas is high and people need things. And so when you put products into an employee program, and that's what we do in a big way outside of the casino industry. We touched on when I first said like pharmaceutical companies or financial companies. We do a tremendous amount of employee-based programs. And that's really necessary right now. We need to re-energize people to come back to work. You need to recognize them for doing a good job. You need to train them to upsell. And all those things build a really strong organization. And so I think that's really the biggest initiative that we would like to take on in the casino industry is more in terms of employee recognition engagement.
Okay. Well, that's all I had. Paul, thank you very much for joining me, and best of luck to you and Rymax for the rest of the year and onward.
Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing everybody in Vegas in a couple of weeks.
Definitely. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the GGB Gaming Supplier Showcase, our exclusive look at the best products and services produced by vendors for the gaming, iGaming, and sports betting industries. For more information about the GGB Supplier Showcase, contact Terry Brady at tbrady@ggbmagazine.com.